So welcome everybody to the webinar US EPA Safer Choice Label, Better Options for Organizational Purchasing Programs. My name is Saskia Van Bergen, Green Chemistry Scientist at the Washington State Department of Ecology. This is our second webinar in a Safer Choice series. And I wanted to just take a minute or two to provide some context to why Department of Ecology is organizing this series. So one of our agency's priorities is to prevent and reduce toxic threats, as we believe that avoiding using toxic ingredients in the first place is the smartest, most efficient, and healthiest approach. So in our program, and the slide is a little bit messed up, we identify chemicals of concern, and then we gather data, for example, through pollution prevention planning, manufacturer reporting, and consumer product testing. And we also try to decrease the use of toxic chemicals. And then what we also like to do is try to develop tools and support organizations to switch to safer alternatives and develop safer chemicals and products using green chemistry principles. And we really believe that safer choice is one example of safer alternatives in green chemistry innovation. So we encourage groups to look for these products, as safer choice is a chemical hazard-based approach. It goes beyond the list of problematic chemicals and has a positive list, and helps organizations and individuals easily identify safer chemicals and products. So with that, I'd like to introduce you to the presenters of this webinar. We have John Katz, who's a Pollution Prevention Coordinator at US EPA Region 9, Karl, Bruskotter, a Sustainability Analyst at the City of Santa Monica, and Keith Schneringer, the Director of Channel Marketing and Sustainability at Waxie Sanitary Supply. So with that, I will pass the baton over to John. So John, you should have control. If you go to the top, you can move the slides.
Okay, great. And the slides are on your desktop, though, not on mine. Or do I have to open it on mine? Just wanted to check and make sure.
No, you should be able to. They're on WebEx, and so I have it where I pass the controls over to you. So if you look at the screen on the upper part, there's 06. You should be able to click on the arrow to move the.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for the opportunity to be here. I am, as Saskia said, I am John Katz. I'm a pollution prevention coordinator here in our regional office in San Francisco, but I have been doing work with the Safer Choice program for the past 2.5, 3 years, trying to market it both to manufacturers who create products for this label and as well as to purchasers to help them understand what's behind the label and why it makes sense to include it in purchasing. So I'm really glad to be here. My goal today is just to give you a quick overview of the Safer Choice program. And as Saskia said, this is a labeling program that builds on EPA's long knowledge in evaluating chemicals under the Toxic Substances Control Act, TSCA program, and really is trying to encourage greener chemistry as opposed to trying to go after chemicals one by one that are bad. What we're trying to do, as Saskia said, is promote more benign chemistry, looking forward, evaluating chemicals and products to help both consumers and purchasers give clear signals to product manufacturers and chemical manufacturers and retailers on how to move towards a more benign chemical future. And the focus of the label is on safer chemical ingredients. It does include provisions around performance, packaging, and ingredient disclosure, which I'll get into in a little bit further. And the other point I just want to make sure that everybody understands is that it verifies and reviews all these ingredients up the entire supply chain. So instead of just looking at a banned list and allowing large classes of chemicals, it looks at every single chemical in a product. And as I said, this has been built on EPA's expertise in evaluating chemicals under both the new chemical program as well as the existing chemicals program within our TSCA office, where we have to be able to evaluate chemicals across a comprehensive set of environmental and human health endpoints and have a deep understanding on, even where there isn't good data, can we make conclusions about the relative hazard of chemicals based on what data we do have. And we use that, all of that accumulated knowledge and expertise and modeling and tools to apply those to future thinking chemical formulations. The one thing that I think that separates the Safer Choice label from some of the others in the marketplace, and I do want to make it clear that we actually think the use of labels, especially credible labels in the marketplace, are a good thing, and we understand that there are others out there and they all serve similar purposes, and so I'm not going to say anything negative about them. But the one thing I do want to say about Safer Choice is that it's verified by a trusted government agency that the product contains only safer chemical ingredients. That's the promise we make when you see the Safer Choice label, is that it has EPA's name on it, and that we have done our due diligence and we've made sure the manufacturers have done their due diligence, that the ingredients in those products are safer for families, pets, and communities, for workers and workplaces, and they actually work. And I know that's important for those of us who work in the institutional field and have to battle some of the myths about green products, that they are more expensive and don't work. And the goal behind the label, as I said, is to facilitate rapid decision making. We can't expect all purchasers, or even those of us who work in environmental field, to be able to rapidly look through a long list of chemical ingredients on a product and understand, are there things in there we should be concerned about? Are they using safer chemistries? This makes it far easier for those who care about it to take one look and say, okay, somebody has looked at all of these, and we can have some sense of assurance that this is a safer product. I do want to stress that that Safer Choice is actually a family of labels. The big label on the left is the main label. That's the little house up on the top indicates it's primarily aimed at consumers. This is our primary label. We also have several optional labels that manufacturers can choose to use if they so desire. One is the little one, which is more for workplaces, for industrial and institutional uses. And then we also have a fragrance-free label, which is actually of great interest for places where people are concerned about asthma triggers or have fragrance sensitivities, and this is a good label if that's something that you are interested in or concerned about. Right now, the Safer Choice program has about 2,000 labeled products from 500 different partners, and you can see a whole list at the website that is listed here. We have about 700 retail consumer-focused products and about 1,300 that are more in the industrial and institutional janitorial space. And a majority of the partners with labeled products are small businesses. So if you have the purchasing preferences for small businesses, you can actually look on this list and find a number of these kind of products. The Safer Choice labeled products come in a wide variety of, or cover a wide variety of product categories. They're all listed here. I won't go through them. A number of them are more specialized, like aircraft cleaning products and athletic field paint, but we also have a number that are used in most many other applications that institutional purchasers typically buy, degreasers, dish detergents, cleaners, general purpose cleaners, carpet and floor care products. So we run the whole gamut of product categories that you might be looking to buy as an institutional purchaser, or that your janitorial contractors may buy, or that your facilities maintenance people may buy. I just want to talk a little bit. I've touched on what is behind the label, and I just really want to stress the way that we go about certifying products. The first and foremost, in order to use the label, the products must meet our Safer Choice standard, and that is available on the Safer Choice website. You can see what are all the criteria that we use to evaluate both entire formulations and every individual chemical in the product. And I think that's one of the things that I should be aware of, is that we actually require that every single chemical ingredient in the product or formulation is reviewed for human health and environmental safety. And that means that they have to, even those that are proprietary, they have to reveal to us what those are. They don't necessarily have to always disclose every single one of those. If they're proprietary ingredients, they can include them under certain more general terms. But in order to get the label, the full formulation has to be disclosed to us. Even there are no de minimis amounts that they can ignore unless they're not intentionally added. The other things that they have to do in addition to the chemical ingredients is they have to have product level requirements, which include they have to meet performance standards. We use ASTM and National Sanitation Foundation and other performance standards for cleaning, so that we make sure that the products actually work. And then they also have to meet requirements around packaging and ingredient disclosure. They do have to disclose every ingredient for the most part, with few exceptions, and that has to be either on the package or it has to be available through an 800 number or on the web. So you as a buyer, if you're concerned about what's in it or have to do data sheets or that kind of thing, you can, you're assured you can get that information from Safer Choice labeled products. The other part is that they have to be covered under a partnership agreement with EPA, and that is renewed every 3 years, and that outlines all of the requirements for both labeling as well as auditing and review of their product formulations, and requirements that if they change their formulation, they have to notify us. They also undergo annual audits. They're both paper audits, but we also do on-site audits where we make sure that the ingredients that they're putting in there are actually the ones that are being used in the manufacturing and or formulating plant. Just to give you a sense of the breadth of the human health and environmental endpoints that we look at, again, I won't go through all of these, but you can see that it's a full suite of endpoints that I think are of concern to all of us. We do include both respiratory sensitization and skin sensitization, and we look at environmental endpoints, but we also look at how those play into the specific formulations. So, for instance, if it's a skin sensitizer, an aerosol respiratory sensitizer, but it's in a powdered form that isn't going to be released as an aerosol, that we may have to make a judgment call on things like that. But generally speaking, we use definitive lists as well as our deep knowledge of chemicals to evaluate whether they meet the thresholds we have for all these endpoints. So I just want to shift off of that. So that's the background on the label and what it covers. I do want to just touch on the fact that Safer Choice is being used in a wide variety of purchasing programs across the federal government as well as state and local governments, and you'll hear more about that from Karl in a little bit later. But right now, the current executive order for federal sustainability requires federal agencies to buy Safer Choice products where they're available. The General Services Administration's Sustainable Facilities tool provides both guidance and a link to all the listed products, that makes it easy for federal purchasers to identify, what categories are their products for, what are the requirements, and where can they find them. But there are also state and local procurement guidelines that reference Safer Choice. Oregon's contract for janitorial supplies does, Seattle's does, and even the LEED for existing buildings standard, if you're going for the building's operation and maintenance certification, you can get credit under the Green Cleaning Products and Materials criterion by using Safer Choice products. So if you're seeking that building operations and maintenance certification, Safer Choice can help you get there. And you can find these requirements on our website as well, or links to other programs that use Safer Choice if you're looking for model language or how others have referenced the certification. And this is just a little bit more information on the LEED credit for green cleaning products and materials. And essentially 75% of the purchases must meet these criteria, and Safer Choice is one of them in these three categories: cleaning products, disinfectants and metal polishes, and hand soaps and hand sanitizers. Just want to give you the last thing is just to leave you with some tools and resources if you're interested in learning more about Safer Choice. The website's here, and hopefully those will be available in the slides after the presentation. So with that, I will turn it back over to Saskia.
And so I'd like to thank you, John, and next is Karl.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Karl Bruskotter, and I'm in the Office of Sustainability with the City of Santa Monica. My background, I went to school. My major was environmental occupational health, and I worked in private industry for a number of years, and I've been with the city for about 16 years. And that whole time I pretty much looked at chemicals and how they affect humans and the environment. So I've had a lot of experience with this, and I hope I'm just going to share the experiences in Santa Monica related to the Safer Choice label, and I hope it's useful. So the history of what we call toxic use reduction program in Santa Monica started back in '94. Long story short, we had some UCLA grads come in and look at all the toxic chemicals that we used in our operations and cleaning our buildings, our fleet maintenance, pesticides, stuff like that. And they found out, they at that time tried to find, safer, greener versions of those chemicals. At the time, it wasn't easy to be sure. But that's where our program started in '94. And I remember what a huge burden it was. I started there about 2001. And one time we went out to bid, and we kind of developed our own endpoint criteria for environmental and human health, what we would allow for cleaning products. And it was a real huge burden. We had, I remember 3M submitted like these 2 4-inch binders. And I remember when they came in with the other submittals, and I looked at it, and I'm like, how on earth am I going to go through all this and evaluate all this stuff? It was just a completely different deal. And that was before we had some of the development of some of the safer labels like Safer Choice, which, of course, was designed for the environment at the time, and Green Seal and Eco logo and stuff like that. And then you'll see at the time we had this campaign, Don't Be a Bonehead, Make a Smart Choice About Toxics. It's kind of clever and cute, but at the end of the day, it was not effective at all because, like John mentioned before, just the average consumer trying to figure out if a chemical product is safe or not, it's not common sense. It's not easy to do. So why do we do it in Santa Monica? Anytime people make procurement decisions, like if it's a city, anytime people ask me why we do it, we're trying to solve a problem. So what problems are we trying to solve by buying safer chemical products in Santa Monica? Santa Monica is within the LA area, so we have to make decisions that help mitigate the smog problem in LA, improve indoor air quality. We have our Santa Monica Bay, which is very important to everybody that lives there and our tourists and stuff like that, so we like to keep that healthy and don't want to use products that are toxic to aquatic life. Of course, we're worry about our own workers' health. We don't want the carcinogens, the mutagens, the reproductive toxins, of course, the PBTs. We definitely don't want those. And the great thing, you know, when I look at the safer choice criteria, it's all very consistent with what our goals are in Santa Monica for protecting human health and the environment. So they line up very well. One thing that comes up, what they call greenwashing, if anybody's ever heard that, it's where, you know, they sell a toxic cleaning product and they put a little bunny rabbit on it and like a pine tree, and you're supposed to think it's safe and earthy and stuff. And I think that still goes on to a degree. I remember when back in the day I had a mechanic bring this one product to me. It was a brake cleaner, and he's like, "Oh, look how safe this is," you know. And it was all over the label, and it was just because they didn't put an ozone-depleting chemical in it, which was banned for the last 15 years anyway. So it wasn't a huge achievement for that company, but they certainly tricked the mechanic. Okay, so to avoid greenwashing, we have the labels, like the safer choice. I know John pointed these out earlier, so I'm not going to go over it much. So how does evaluating chemical products look in Santa Monica? I know this isn't really the point of this webinar to tell you not to buy things, but we do. That is the first question we ask before we buy a chemical product, is whether we really need it. Do we really need a aerosol bug spray, you know, for flying insects that has, you know, a fragrance to it? We don't really need something like that. Then can we buy a less toxic version? And that's certainly where the safer choice label comes in handy. And then we look at how we can reduce exposure. I think one of the things that I like about the safer choice label is that they do get into what they call functional classes, because in my experience, it's very important to look at what the product application is, because it's very relative. And I have it there. It's, you know, a graffiti remover is certainly going to tend to be more toxic than a product that you would get for, let's say, a hard surface cleaner. So I think what happens with the safer choice label is you're getting the safest product for that application, which I think is really important to take into consideration. This is a little bit hard to see, but one thing I wanted to show here, this is anybody that's familiar with a safety data sheet. A safety data sheet is something that a manufacturer is supposed to provide anytime you buy a chemical product from them, and you're supposed to share this with the employees that will be using that chemical product, so they have information about what the chemicals are, how to protect themselves, and stuff like that. And just the other day, we had our fleet maintenance group, one of the head mechanics over there sent me, he said, "Hey, we got this one product, we really like it, I want you to look at the safety data sheet and tell me what you think." And I was looking through it, and I got to the section 12 here. I know it's a little hard to read, but it says all ingredients meet the Safer Choice program, and then talks about how it meets, you know, the Safer Choice program by EPA. And for me, that was really helpful. The fact that the manufacturer indicated this on the safety data sheet made that evaluation just a real slam dunk for me. So it really made it easy. I would love to see more of that. Okay, the performance. Now, this is something that comes up a lot. I think certainly back in '94, the issue of performance was a real big deal, both real and perceived performance. Some of the products didn't work that well then. They've come a long way as far as performance, I think, but there's still continues to be a perception of performance being decreased when you buy a safer or a green product. So that still continues to a degree. And so how do you overcome that? Again, buying products that work is always a great way to overcome that. I say here, the goal, in my position with the city, my goal isn't to find the safest product at all. That's not my goal. My goal is to find the safest product that will meet the needs of our end users and all our operations. So that's my goal. And it's a real balancing act for sure, but definitely possible. And not getting complaints. Our procurement people don't like to get complaints, and nobody likes to get complaints. So recommending a product that performs, initially is the best way to go. Where we use the Safer Choice label, if anybody that's on the call, local, state, federal government, I'm sure you have to go to competitive bid just like us. So if we competitive bid our cleaning chemicals, which we do, right in the bid specifications, we have the criteria that it's got to meet the Safer Choice label. We can't just say Safer Choice. We have to say or Green Seal or Eco Logo, which is now UL Environment. We can't single out one certification, but we do put all three in there. And another place we use it is something called the Easy Guide, which I'm going to show you in the next slide. Green Business Certification Checklist is great. One of the jobs I do here in the city is we have a Green Business Certification Program, and there's a lot of different cities and counties in California and in Washington, I'm sure, too. I know of a couple up there that have programs where they certify businesses to be green. And within there, one of the measures that businesses have to do is they have to buy safer cleaning chemicals. And it makes it a lot easier for the small businesses if you can point out a Safer Choice labeled cleaning product or product that they need. It makes it a lot easier for them because they don't really have the time to figure out what that means otherwise. The other thing I really appreciate the Safer Choice label. It has a lot of different product categories, which is really good for us. The more product categories that are covered, the more safer chemicals we get into our operations. Like John mentioned earlier, it's great for the LEED projects. And the other thing that's good is I look a lot at what we use in our own operations, but anytime I can make that connection to our employee or a resident or a business about how they can get safer products retail, that's always a big advantage. So we always try and take advantage of that. This is the Easy Guide that I mentioned that I would show you. We have Easy Guides put together for dozens of different product categories and services as part of our sustainable procurement effort. This one happens to be on cleaning products, and you can kind of see in the middle right, we let employees know to look for the eco label. And the difference between the Easy Guide and a bid specification, an Easy Guide is more for those kind of purchases that employees make that aren't what, let's say, custodial staff would be buying in bulk for cleaning products. It's kind of more like the little things that would be, under the cabinet in the kitchen or the break room and things that they would use to clean their desk and stuff like that. So that's where we use this particular Easy Guide. And that brings me to the end. I'll look forward if anybody has questions. I'll be happy to answer them. But now I'm going to go ahead and turn it back to Saskia.
Great. Thank you, Karl.
You're welcome.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Again, my name is Keith, and I'm with Waxie Sanitary Supply. And for those of you who may have not heard of Waxie, We are a family-owned company based in San Diego, California, started in 1945 by a couple of brothers who had served in World War II. The last name of the family is Wax, and one of the brothers' nicknames in the Navy was Waxie. So sometimes people ask, what's a Waxie? Or why are you guys called Waxie? And they'll say, is it because you sell floor wax? Or is it because of the toilet seat covers are kind of waxy? And no, it's because the last name of the family is Wax. I've worked at Waxie since 1990 and have served a variety of functions, including sales management, marketing, and I'm pleased to say that I'm the company's first director of sustainability, and so it's been really rewarding to see the company evolve over time with green cleaning products. These products now make up over a third of our business, and I'm very happy and pleased to be here today to talk with you all about EPA Safer Choice, which plays a big role in that effort. Things that I want to cover are listed here on the agenda, and we'll spend a little bit of time with each, and I'm also excited to talk about thoughts for the future and how EPA Safer Choice, the role that it can play as we look into the future. So for starters, I want to just start off with just a basic definition of green cleaning. We have a wide variety of customers from many different walks of life, whether they be municipal customers or state, local, or federal government customers. We've got school customers, higher ed customers, healthcare. We've got large venue, and everybody had different definitions of green cleaning. So when we work with our customers, the definition that we like to use is green cleaning is effective cleaning that protects health without harming the environment. And just not to belabor the point, but when we look at products and the way that they're used, we try and determine, does this have a demonstrably better impact, or is this demonstrably better for human health? And does this have a demonstrable reduced impact on the environment? And we find that the EPA Safer Choice is a helpful tool to allow us to position cleaning solutions for our customers so that they can achieve these two goals. We believe that green cleaning isn't just about the products. Obviously, you want to have the safest possible product, but we think that it's also vitally important that there be training. And that's another role that we feel that a distributor like Waxie plays for our customers. We like to say that we don't just deliver the box, we actually know what's in the box, what it does, and how to use it. And even the safest chemical, if used incorrectly, can still potentially have a negative impact on human health and or the environment. So we think that in addition to identifying the products, equipment, and tools that would have safer profiles or reduced environmental impact profiles, we also address the processes and procedures that those products are used. And we also like to encourage a commitment to continuous improvement and really see this as a continuum and not have it be something where you say, well, I looked into this in 2007, I got the best available technology then. We like to make sure that people are making themselves aware of the latest cleaning chemistry and also associated mechanizations so that they can get clean, green, healthy buildings at the lowest cost. We see this conversation as opening itself up to many opportunities, including improved cleanliness. And we believe that having the conversation where people clean for health and not just appearance is something that lends itself to this idea of choosing safer products, but also using them in a safer process, using defined standard operating procedures, so that instead of having the sort of prototypical white glove treatment where people would go around and they touch surfaces, and if the white glove remains white, then it's clean. We've actually learned over time that just because there's not physical dirt on there, there still could be pathogenic material on there that you want to make sure that you're cleaning, and really the way that you address that is through good standard operating procedures where you are focusing on touch points, et cetera. We believe that using safer chemistry in conjunction with mechanization helps to improve the cleaning process and also drive cleaning costs down. We know that every one of our customers has a bottom line that they need to take care of and a budget. But what we try and do is identify solutions that can help them with their financial bottom line, but also their human health and their environmental impact bottom line, so that they can come up with the best solution. We know that we do have customers that have some of them have green spend purchase goals, so we have some tools that can help with tracking that we'll talk about in just a little bit. And then the overall goal is to help reduce impacts, not only on human health, not only on the environment, but also ideally on the budget, so that you can, like I said, have a clean green facility at the total lowest cost. So as we have customers searching for green cleaning products, they will frequently say, well, how do I know that I am using a green cleaning product? And so in the beginning, let's say like the 1970s, and I think I told you that I've been working at Waxie since 1990, so I've seen a couple different waves of green cleaning products come through. But there very much was a certain profile that our customers fit if they were wanting to source a green product in the 70s and 80s, even into the early 90s. Typically, the products were not as effective, and they cost a bunch more. I tell the story that one of my customers, when I was a sales consultant here in San Diego, they really wanted to use green cleaning products, and about every 6 to 9 months, I'd go out there and I'd present them with their options. But unfortunately, at that time in the 90s, it represented anywhere from a 10 to a 12% premium. That is no longer true today because there's been enough institutional purchasers making decisions to buy green cleaning products. Now, with that scale in place, the price is, we would say, cost neutral, and in some instances, it's even less expensive. And that's because a lot of customers have said they want to buy it. That interest has also, unfortunately, brought along some of the greenwashing, as Karl had referenced, where people say, "Oh, you want a green product? Well, let me put this flower logo on the product, and let's all call it green." So we are always trying to find ways so that if a customer, if they're looking for a green product, they can make sure that they can reference a third-party standard that they have some trust and faith in. And we think that the EPA DFE label does provide our customers, our customer purchasers with that trust. And as I mentioned, we do serve many government and tax-supported customers, and we find that they make up the bulk of our customers that are specifying the EPA Safer Choice product. And we actually have, when we go to the market, we select that label, the institutional label that references the old Design for Environment, DFE Safer Choice because we had a lot of customers that were purchasing DFE products before the switch over to Safer Choice. We are pleased that we have these products on many different contracts, including the aforementioned state of Oregon and Washington contracts. But we also have these products on contracts like National IPA or NCPA, and in some of these contracts, we actually have worked with the contract holders to build in incentives for institutional purchasers to select green products. We, as also mentioned previously, the Safer Choice label is now listed in LEED, and we do help our customers with LEED certification projects. One of the biggest things that we could do, in addition to helping with green cleaning policy writing and green cleaning training for the custodians, but also, identifying green products, green equipment, and then having the tools to help with the reporting mechanism that's required within LEED. The way that we do that, well, first off, let me talk about our choice of using this on the label. So this is an example of a restroom and bowl cleaner label that we have for a product that's Safer Choice certified. You can see it there in the lower left-hand corner of the label. But on these labels, we include all of the ingredients on the label, so that you know what's in the formula. And from a formulator's perspective, the Safer Choice is something that we appreciate that approach. It allows us to say, okay, well, here's the list of ingredients that are considered to be safest in class, and so if we formulate something with those ingredients, by definition, we're going to have a safer product. And especially when you think of products on a continuum, if you will, where certain chemistries is going to be much more benign than others, but when you look at something like Karl referenced about the graffiti cleaner, typically that's going to be a stronger chemicals. So how do we find the safest possible ingredients to make up a product that actually works? So we do find that from that perspective, Safer Choice is a good option for us. As I mentioned before, we do have a number of standard or certification standards and attributes that we use to identify our products. And so depending on what our customers are interested in, we are able to select by third-party certification, Tier 1 items, certifications such as EPA Safer Choice, and then going down to Tier 3 attributes where sometimes customers will say, hey, I want to see all of our purchases that we made with you with items that have any sort of recycled content in them, or items that, vacuum cleaners that have decibel levels less than 70 decibels. And so what we're able to do is we're able to produce green spend dashboards for customers, and it is offered in two views. This first view that you see here shows customers their purchases by the month. So if you look in the upper left-hand corner, you can see green spend percentage for the month of January, February, March, etc. In the lower left-hand corner, it shows those purchases represented as a bar chart, so you can see your total purchases in blue with your green purchases in green. And then in the upper right-hand corner, you can see your total performance in the circular pie chart there. And then if we know what your goal is, then we can describe how you're performing to goal. So for this particular customer, their goal is 60% green spend performance. Their actual spend is 74%, so they're above their goal. And then we're also able to provide the information split up by product category. And this is particularly helpful for customers who have a LEED project or perhaps an ASHE STARS project, where we're able to then say by category, here's how you're performing with your cleaning chemicals, which would be primarily where we would find the EPA Safer Choice products that we carry. And then we also offer analysis of sanitary paper products, trash and recycling liners, and hand soap, another potential place to find a safer choice product. And same thing, upper left-hand corner is where you see the categories and their percentages. Lower left-hand corner, you see the blue total spend in the category, green spend in the category. Upper right, the pie chart, and then work your way down to performance to goal, and then we also list the date range, etc. This is all something that we built in conjunction and in collaboration with customers, and it's our goal to try and meet the needs of the present while also anticipating the needs of the future. And I think that Safer Choice certified products put us in a good position. We believe that ingredient disclosures will become more and more prevalent. As a matter of fact, legislation was just passed here in California that's going to require all of the chemical ingredients to be listed online for folks for each of the products, and then also on the label, and that's going to go into effect in a couple of years. I do want to mention also that we're really excited about a particular form of chemistry, bioactive chemistry, where you actually use quote-unquote good bacteria to help in the cleaning process. We are we're piloting a study with a university here in California where we're seeing what kind of results we can get in cleaning a restroom using this bioactive chemistry, with the hypothesis being if we can build a culture of good bacteria within the restroom that can outcompete the pathogenic bacteria for food source, it could potentially help us to minimize the need and use of more toxic disinfectant products. And so these are some of the things that we're excited about looking at. And we ultimately believe that conversations like the ones that we're having this morning help to move the market, and things that we call green today, ideally in the future, they'll just be regular. And the example that I typically use for that is we had a glass cleaner that was a ammonia-based glass cleaner. We created a air quote green glass cleaner that used corn alcohol in place of the ammonia. It actually works better than the ammonia formula. It costs less than the ammonia formula, so we ended up just discontinuing the old formula and just said that, hey, this is our glass cleaner. So if you want a green glass cleaner, great. If you don't want a green glass cleaner, hey, it works great. It's got a good price, and it's just glass cleaner now. So those are the things that we see in the future. We have a platform to help customers that we call the Waxie GPS Green Partner Support Program, where we take a whole facility approach and we offer solutions. We determine what goals are, and then we build a customized solution that incorporates solutions for chemistry, mechanization, waste diversion, entryways, recycled content for paper and liners, water and conservation for water and energy, wellness for hand hygiene and wellness programs, and then wrap the whole thing up with a stewardship and continuous improvement program. I want to say thank you very much for the opportunity to share this information with you all, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you very much, and I will pass the ball to Saskia.
Thank you very much, Keith. Thank you, John, Karl, and Keith, really, for your wonderful presentations. If you do have any questions, please type them in the Q&A box. Karl, how do you distribute your easy guides? Or how did you?
Oh, the easy guides are distributed through a website we have. We have printed versions if people want it, but it's mostly it's an internal website that our employees link to, and they get all the easy guides on that site. If there's anybody that is interested in seeing the easy guides, all you have to do is, can they get in touch with you, Saskia, and you can pass along the information? Or?
Yes, and I believe also if they saw your email was on as well. But yeah, definitely you can contact me. We're sending an email out after this webinar.
Okay,
yep.
Great. Yeah, if anybody wants to see those easy guides, I'm happy to share them.
Great, thank you. Keith, you mentioned green cleaning training. Can you expand on that, please?
Absolutely. Yeah, so we have training that we can provide for our customers. We offer a just general green cleaning training. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be doing a training such as that this afternoon at UC San Diego, where we position green cleaning as a topic for the custodial crew. But then we can also go into more specific training such as cleaning of a restroom, cleaning of a classroom, cleaning of general office space, and then we can help customers to track, who they trained and when they trained them, et cetera. So, hard floor care, carpet care, restroom care, and so hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you. Have you dealt with any customer misconceptions about Safer Choice products, and if so, what were they? I think this could be to a couple of you.
So this is Keith with Waxie, and so one of my favorite stories about certification is a conversation with a customer where they were asking questions about, well, what's EPA Safer Choice, what's Green Seal, what's the difference between stuff, and so we started off the conversation with the discussion about what a third-party certification is, where you're the first party, you want to make a purchase, we're the second party, we would be interested in providing you with that purchased item, but then a third party can objectively look at that product and tell the first and second parties, hey, this is how this product performs on these human health characteristics and on these environmental impact characteristics and on these performance characteristics. So we're explaining how you trust this bucket of, or this bundle of products that have been certified by these folks. And so the customer then looked at us and said, well, I want something that's fourth party certified. And so some of the misconceptions are, the science behind some of the certification standards, and sometimes the other conversation that we have with folks is it's maybe a bit esoteric. The product isn't more sustainable because it's certified. It's certified because it passes these human health, environmental health, and performance criteria. So really, it's sort of doing the work for you as a purchaser to kind of have that stamp of approval that somebody used a science-based standard to evaluate the product in those categories of health, environment, and performance, so that you don't have to be a junior chemist and say, well, I think that if I mix 2 parts of this and 3 parts of that, I'm going to come up with a great cleaner. So some of the misconceptions are how do these standards work, and then other misconceptions are that they'll see a different standard with a flower on it that maybe is a little bit more of like a correspondence standard where you just send money to a P.O. box and then they send you back a label package, and then you put your flower on there, and that's where you get into the greenwashing.
Thanks. Anyone else have any additional misconceptions? Okay. If anyone has additional questions, please put them in the Q&A box. I think I have 2 more that I see. So do you believe that there could be additional categories for Safer Choice products?
We are working with manufacturers and formulators all the time on different product categories. You'd notice that we've added some pet categories, which we didn't have before. We had some graffiti removers at one point. The couple of companies who had been working on that have, I think, gone out of business, so we don't have any on the list right now, but are always interested if there's people who have new products that they can demonstrate, perform, and also meet the standard. So we also do have a pilot program that's not under Safer Choice, but it is with our Design for the Environment program, looking at antimicrobials using similar criteria because of the rules under the federal pesticide legislation. We can't label that as Safer Choice, but it is a product category we're interested in. So that's another area. So there will be more. We're expanding it as the demand and as the supply of products and companies willing to participate grows.
And this is Keith with Waxie. I think that, just to piggyback on what John said, another popular misconception is the term green disinfectant. And so there are, we do have customers that are looking for green disinfectants, and there are less reputable organizations that are marketing green disinfectants. And as John referenced, the EPA, the branch of the EPA that's in charge of the disinfectants, is they don't allow for something to be an EPA registered disinfectant and also have a eco label on it. They feel that leads to confusion in the marketplace, that people are thinking that something that is a pesticide is safer. And when you think about it, disinfectants, you want them to kill things. That's their job. And usually when you're talking about safer products, you're talking about products that aren't going to kill things that are in the environment. And so I think that's another misconception. So our advice to folks is to look at it on a continuum and say what has reduced impact on health, what has reduced impact on the environment. So if you are using bleach, and maybe you can consider converting over to a different disinfectant, whether it be a quat or hydrogen peroxide based disinfectant. And if you're using that disinfectant at a 1 to 8 dilution, perhaps you can consider a disinfectant at a 1 to 256 dilution, which would reduce your packaging, also make the end chemical result, more water than chemical, and so that's the conversation we typically will have with folks that are looking for green disinfectants.
Great, thank you. And I think there's one person trying to send a question, but I see one more is, have you seen a change in demand of green products from customers over time, and are there certain categories that are of particular interest?
Yeah, this is Karl with Santa Monica. I mean, I've seen a big move towards, whether you're talking about retail market, the average consumer, or just inquiries that we get from different businesses and our own employees. Yeah, I think the demand that I see for safer chemical products and cleaning products is definitely trending up.
Thank you.
Yeah, and this is Keith. We definitely see the same thing. When we first started tracking green product purchases in the early 2000s, it was a number that was in the single digits for us, less than 5% of the business. And as I shared, it's now over a third of our business, tracking towards 40%. So we definitely see a big shift. During the recession of 08, 09, 10, we as a company weren't experiencing good growth, but the green products were growing double digits, so people were converting over to greener options during that time and today.
Great. So John, Karl, and Keith, I believe someone might have asked you a question to you individually.
Yeah, I was going to say I had a question that I wanted to answer. Somebody had asked what types of ingredients are exempt from disclosure, and essentially it's anything that the manufacturer can legitimately claim under the Federal Trade Commission rules as a trade secret, but under our disclosure rules, what they have to not disclose is the specific CAS number of the chemical. They do have to indicate sort of the class of chemical, like a anionic surfactant, or so they have to give some information as to what it is. They can't just say it's proprietary, but the actual chemical name and CAS number can be held as proprietary. So that's the kind of thing that they can hold. It's basically anything they determine as a secret, but that's mostly just on disclosure. I do want to reiterate that for us, they have to reveal to us what that is so we can evaluate it.
Thank you. So I believe that's all of the questions. Just wanted to mention a couple upcoming events. We do have another webinar on Safer Choice, which is for chemical manufacturers, formulators, and suppliers, what they need to know. And also there are early next year some in-person trainings for OSHA 7225, transitioning to safer alternatives. So with that, I really thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you again, John, Karl, and Keith, for your excellent presentations.
Thanks, Saskia.
It was a pleasure.
Thanks,
everyone.